Music producers, it's Curtis King at CurtisKingBeats.com. And yes, you were looking at a video that reads about an hour plus worth of content. But I gotta say, I had to do this pre-video before the actual interview that I did with one of the most legendary beat sellers online, Epik the Don. I had to do a little video before because I need you to understand how important this video is. Now, I know a lot of you get to this long form content and you just start zoning out, or you be like, I'll get to that when I get to that. But I'm telling you, if you are a producer that sells beats online, it is imperative. It is so important that you watch or just listen to this entire interview. I even went through the liberty of making it even visually stimulating. It's like oceans and all that kind of stuff and wave bars, whatever. Anyways, I need you guys to watch this because Epik and I are actually putting together something that I think is going to change a lot of music producers' lives. It's only going to be available to a certain few. But the most important thing that you can do before we start to give more information about this, watch and listen to this interview. And I gotta say, it's definitely one of the best interviews that I've been a part of. Even as I was re-listening and editing this video, I'm just amazed at the amount of gems that are in here. It's a weekend. I released this on a weekend specifically so you can sit back, chill, absorb the information. This is somebody that's way too important to just skim over this. If you are a producer that is serious about selling beats online, watch this video. And very soon I have a lot more information for you about this producer mentor program that Epik and I are putting together. Once again, this is Curtis King, CurtisKingBeats.com. Enjoy. Music producers, it's Curtis King at CurtisKingBeats.com, and you're listening to another episode of the Curtis King Podcast. Music producers, it's been quite a while. This is the long promised, the long anticipated. I don't even know if it's been anticipated at this point. 3 months is a long time, but we are back. And I didn't come back empty-handed. Today I have a special guest. Someone that I've considered a mentor for many years, someone that introduced me, even though he didn't know he was introducing me because I was just a person in the crowd, to the beat leasing business as it is, many years ago at a conference called the West Coast Awareness Conference. And I was just a young producer looking out in the crowd, looking for some kind of answers of how to move the needle from where I was at. And there was this gentleman named Epik Beats that was actually speaking, and he was the only one making sense on that panel that day. Something I never forgot. Over the years, we kind of, very casually had conversations. And then as time gone on, we've talked more and more and more. But man, it is an honor to have this dude today on the podcast coming back. So Epik, man, please say hello to the people and let's definitely get started on this leasing beats conversation, since a lot of people are a little bit nervous right now.
Yeah, man, there's a lot. I think there's a lot of reasons to be nervous, but definitely what's good. My name's Epik the Don. For everybody that doesn't know me, I've been doing this for about 13 years since my son was born. So he's about to be 13 in a couple of days. And, I'm glad to be here with you, man. I'm glad to have this conversation. I think it's important.
Absolutely. So for people who don't know sort of to me, I would never hear you speak on that, but your legendary status in this, what is important for people to know in terms of your involvement in this? What has been your success with the leasing business? I know, and I'm pretty sure the majority of my audience knows, but for those who are going to sit up here skeptical about the guy that's talking about the end of the leasing business, they need to know who you are. So how would you, however you want to go, humbly or unhumbly, it's on you. But I want people to know your badges in this.
Yeah, I don't really usually speak on it. I kind of just let everything, let my actions speak. But I've been doing this since 2007. I've been selling beats online since before since it was cool to do it, since it was a thing, before the type beats, almost a little before SoundClick even got popping. So I'm kind of responsible for some of the format of how people sell beats online now, is how they set up their websites, how they set up their sales, like buy one, get three free. I'm responsible for the 99-cent downloads. What do they call them? Demo downloads, right, for a lot of those different ideas behind the structure of the way that people sell beats online today. I usually don't say anything about it. Let everybody do their thing, because I think it's important for for actions to speak more than somebody to just sit here and say like, I did this, I did, because
right.
The past isn't important. The present is the only thing that's important. But yeah, I was one of the biggest producers on SoundClick. I'll say there's four people from that point, from that time, that were really big. It was me, Johnny Giuliano, Superstar O, and Vibe. And we kind of started the whole wave of selling beats online, almost commercial, like making it cool to be an online producer and be able to feed yourself. And, I've seen, like Curtis always says, I've seen multiple waves of this online beat selling thing. And I think we're hitting another one soon, very, very soon.
Right. And I'm glad to have you on here today to speak about this next wave, because I think it is definitely one that probably affects a larger demographic of people, because, as you said before in the very beginning, it wasn't the cool thing to do. But I think that over time, aside from yourself and myself and a lot of folks who have been very vocal, even to a certain degree, BusyWorks have been very vocal about making sure that people understand that there's an actual business attached to this, and people are seeing that the industry is not making money the way it used to as a whole, and the way that trickles down is that producers are definitely not seeing sort of the cuts that they used to see in the early 2000s, the late 90s, and so as that shifts, people are looking towards the internet for e-commerce opportunities, are looking for other things that are going on. But, the shift is happening. The shift is happening. And a lot of people are kind of sitting here like, wait a minute, I just got my feet wet. What you mean the shift is happening? What's going on? How would you best describe what is going on from here? Or what is the next shift?
I think what's happening is similar to like what you were talking about in your blog that came out today or yesterday.
All right, with DJ Booth. Right.
With DJ Booth. Yeah, they I think that producers aren't entrepreneurs first. And I think in order to sell beats online properly moving forward, we have to bridge the gap between producer and entrepreneurialism. And if you're not a professional and you're not doing things other than just selling beats to help these artists, I don't think that you'll be able to sell one beat at all. And if you can, you're lucky, because one, accessing beats, good beats, quality beats for free now is in abundance. It's not a commodity anymore.
Right.
Back in the early 2000s, you couldn't even make beats. Like, to make quality beats, you had to spend so much money that you didn't even want to make beats. And, you had to spend $7,000 on a setup. My first setup, I had a motif, I had an MPC, and I bought a brand new computer. I spent $5,000 on all of that stuff. And, that was my first little nugget that I got from selling beats online. And that was back in 2007 or something like that, 2007. Eesh. And, before that, I was using sound fonts in FL Studio. People probably don't even know what sound fonts are anymore. Like, right. That's not even a thing. So
it's probably better. It's probably better they don't know what sound fonts are right now.
Right.
they have not aged well.
No, definitely not. So, I made my first $5,000 off of sound fonts, and
sheesh. Yeah.
And so, that allowed me to upgrade. Now, I mean, you could pirate everything and, you don't have to spend a dime. And that's good and bad at the same time. I think that has caused producers to understand that, well, one, to create an abundance of producers, and two, for producers to understand that there's not a lot of value behind what they do anymore, because, you don't have that initial investment that you used to have to, if you spend $10,000 on anything, you're going to commit. It's like the same thing. Like, I think you had to spend a certain amount to even go and meet with Tony Robbins.
Right.
And that's that investment. That's a lot. That's a lot of money. It's not cheap. And since you did that, you overcommitted, not just when you went to the convention, but past that point, you took the information and you applied it. Same thing goes here. If you don't spend $1 on making the beats, what are you going to do after that? You're going to give it away. You're going to give it away for free or give it away for cheaper, which is nothing wrong with that.
Right.
but the amount of people that do it creates a now I don't even call it devalue because it doesn't really devalue the music, but for the artist, he doesn't have to buy something from me or you or anybody else because there's no payoff after that
Right. Right.
anymore. Because all he has to do is go on YouTube, type in hip hop instrumental, download 20 of them joints, record them, and he has an album.
And all he needs is for one of those to grab the attention of somebody who's on that next level, and
Right.
that sort of becomes the new hustle. And you know me, I'm always going to speak on more than just the. I think that's what makes an interview like this, or even a conversation like this, very interesting. Is that we do represent sort of two different anchors as we maneuver forward. A lot of the stuff that I speak about is sort of the spiritual essence of it, and I think you're a lot more straightforward than I am. I think that's an understatement. As much talking we've been doing the last few weeks, it's an understatement, but it's good because I always say that it's necessary. And I got to say this too. Based upon what you're saying, it does bring up a great point in that if producers are out here and they've never had to go through what you went through of taking $5,000 and putting it into something that does not promise you even a quarter of that. There's no promise of that. No matter how great you are, you could be the most amazing producer. You're right. You can get out here and do all the right things when it comes to the musical aspect. Get on the website and then put up the most trash template, and nobody wants to buy from you, right? Or you could use the wrong beat store. The wrong beat store. So use an HTML5 on one of these websites that wants you to do the flash, or if you mess that one step up, you're gonna be one of these producers looking around like, why nobody buying no beats from me? And I think that what it comes down to is that it's an appreciation for every step, and I think that it's an appreciation for where you're at, an appreciation for what you got, and if you came in the game, like many of us, and I'm no different in that. When it came to my first FL Studio, I was looking down upon it. I was looking at it like, man, I'm not about to pay this amount of money for it. I'm about to go get this and I'm about to go start up my career. But what happens is that I believe, and this is just really a personal belief, I'm not putting this on Epik, but I believe that the struggle that I endured probably the first 8, 9, 10 years was solely upon karma for me not doing it the right way. For me not even putting down, like I bought studio, there's certain equipment you just got to buy. Studio monitors, you got to buy the keyboards, you got to buy, just the physical setup. But there's a lot of things that I did not get, and I believe I experienced karma from it. Now, speaking more recently after the whole debacle with the FL Studio and them kind of coming after me, that changed a lot for me in that I'm seeing the most success I've seen even since I started leasing my beats. But I think what's happening right now to producers is that they're experiencing this karma, and instead of realizing, damn, maybe there's something that I did to add to this culture of give me something quality for free, I'm not paying for it. It's making a lot of producers, they have to ask that question now. What is it that I'm doing? Instead of looking at it like, oh, rappers are this, and they're not buying nothing.
They gotta reverse some of those memes.
That whole side, he said, reverse the memes. That is a gospel. They gotta reverse those memes because, I made a character called Roscoe the Taco, and I made these. You remember that? I made these videos, but bro, I tell you, it got to a point where I looked up one day and I was like, this is bullshit. Like I can't do these videos anymore. Like not that I couldn't find material. It's more than enough material talking about, internet rappers, but it just felt so contradictory, and it felt like I was being a hypocrite because I was like, I can't figure out. I don't want to do videos like this that down my first of all my customer base. Yeah, first of all, customer base. Because I'm like, can you imagine if McDonald's or Walmart did that to their lowest denominator customers? They would have an uproar. So I looked at that and I said, okay, I got to change that culture of it, and I just don't feel the energy to do it anymore. But I think, and that's one thing you were saying even about Tony Robbins is that there's an entry level to getting the information. So I went into that room appreciating it at a level that maybe for somebody else that, that $700, $800 ticket wasn't a whole lot. For me at that time, it was. You know, because
Yeah.
I was dealing with a lot of debt. I was dealing with a bunch of situations at home, and it was like, this has to be something. I'm going to make it something. And then sure enough, I came out and I was never the same. But
I mean, I think that's the key word. What you said is like making it something. You know,
yeah,
that's the, because when I started, like I said, it was nobody took they didn't take people seriously that use FL Studio. Like they'll laugh. Like I don't know if you were probably one of the people that was like FL Studio. Like
I was
you
calling
make beats with what?
I was
Like,
calling it Fruity Loops, and everybody when it was already FL Studio, I was still calling it Fruity Loops. Yeah, I was one of those.
Right. Right. So like people will laugh at you, and I came up under like like big producers like THX and Rick Rude, and
That's right.
you know these are all people that even though THX used FL Studio at one point, coming up in that studio that they were in, people just laugh at you, if you use it. And better yet, people didn't even know how to use the internet. And this is when I started to sell beats online
Right.
at that same time. And it wasn't a cool thing to do, but I saw the value in it. I saw that there is an opportunity to capitalize. And not only that, that the future is going here. I could see it from a mile away.
Right.
But I think now what's happening is that this 2020 mark is coming. It's the same as 2010. So if you look at 2010, which was the transition of YouTube and streaming and Instagram and social media in general, and it was ushered into culture when they were saying that this is going to take over brick and mortar and everything else. That was 2010. They were saying that was going to happen. You see Toys R Us closed down in 2018.
Yeah.
Same, you know what I'm saying? So
That was a sad one. That was a sad one as a side note.
Yeah,
Man.
Really sad. Yeah. But 2020 is no different. Now we have that, even those kids that were 5, 6, 7, they're 15 to 18 now. And so in 2020, they're going to be full grown adults, and all they know is this culture. And this culture is no longer a new wave anymore. It is life now. You know what I'm saying? And so with that being said, if I believe, and you can go and go back and listen to Gary Vee and a lot of these entrepreneurs at 2020, from now to 2020, if you're not established, it's going to be a lot harder for you to move forward.
Yeah.
Because you can't get away with half stepping anymore. So before, you could just post anything, a beat, just anything, and people were naive. You had a whole culture that didn't grow up on the internet.
Right.
These kids, they not naive, bro. They know everything. They know the ins, the outs. They know how to download your beats for free. They know how to. This is their culture now.
Right.
And now you can't just. They don't just accept anything that you do, and they expect 10 times more. There's this entitlement that goes along with this new wave of artists that's coming up, and they expect a lot more. And I don't believe 99.999% of all producers are willing to extend their services and their heart any of that,
right,
in order to compensate for the new age artist that isn't going to fall for their BS and just go and buy their beats or anything.
Right. And it's funny because I always say that our generation, not even our generation, but I feel like probably more so the generation underneath us, and those producers who are just kind of getting into this, or even like some of the older producers that are just now getting into the online e-commerce, I feel like they come from a certain way of thinking, and that way of thinking has paid them off for quite some time in other aspects, not just within their beat leasing. They're being used to doing a far less and getting far more. So as this shifts, just to kind of reiterate what you're saying, as it shifts, there's going to be a lot of people who are not going to find success. As you say 99.9%. Lord Jesus. It's definitely, I agree. It's definitely going to be a high percentage of folks who are just not going to understand, how do I readjust to this? How do I bring my business to this new audience? What types of things do they value? And I think that's where it has to start now. One thing I can always say, for those producers right now who are trembling in fear after hearing Epik speak on that, we talked about this recently, is that no matter what era that you're in and no matter what customers start to value, they always tend to come down to one of two things. They buy, the reason people buy from you is going to be either because of extreme pleasure that you're going to bring them, or it's going to help them avoid extreme pain. And more than likely, it's to help them avoid extreme pain. And why is that? Because you tell somebody right now, do you want to figure out a way of how to make $20,000 or how to protect $20,000 that you already have saved? And more than likely, people are going to say, hey, I need to figure out a way to save my $20,000 from getting stolen. And that doesn't change. Even as culture changes, that sort of source of fear, that source of urgency, that source of I need extreme pain. Now what brings those things changes, of course, but that root does not change. And I think that's where producers need to center it in. And also too, I think for clarity's sake, because probably the elephant in the room right now is, sometimes it's tongue in cheek, sometimes it's actual factual when you say it, but you have said this is going to be the death of the beat leasing business. But I know we had a conversation a few days ago that brought me more clarity, just in terms of, the one trick pony being sort of the one that's the victim of this. What do you feel? Why do you feel, I should say, this is the death of this business?
There's a lot of different factors that we did speak on. I think the main thing is, as you said, is that most people in general, outside of just producing, expect more for what they pay for. Mm-hmm. And this goes for the format. Like if you look at yourself, like I always tell people, if you wouldn't buy it, then don't sell it. That is like my biggest saying, like that. So if anything that you can look at that you pay for on a regular basis should be the base of the way that you sell. So Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, all these different things, that is what people pay for. And it's synonymous through everybody that has a cell phone. Right. And so because of that, the same thing is like, you don't buy music. I don't buy music. When's the last time me and you bought a CD? Like, I think Kendrick Lamar's album.
Same here.
Kid Mad City. That's the last album that I bought.
I bought To Pimp a Butterfly. That was the last one that I bought. Yeah.
Okay, so I was even before that, and the last time I paid for cable was 2008. I've been on Netflix since it came to Xbox. So I was like, oh, Netflix on Xbox? I don't need cable. Like,
it's a wrap.
It's a wrap. Like, I don't need it. So I've had just straight internet since then. It's the same mindset. Like, that same mindset is the same mindset that the rapper has. And he's like, I can get this here. Why would I pay for this? So when, like I said, there's a billion, like my artist, Roosevelt, is a producer now. He makes beats. You got not only that, the other day, me and you were talking about Drake rapping over tagged beats. That makes it cool. Oh
man, that's a whole nother episode, but go ahead.
Right. That makes it cool. You know what I'm saying? And that mindset is embedded into the younger generation, even younger than him.
Right.
And like I said, in 2 years, that mindset is solidified.
Yeah, that becomes the norm. That's the
norm. Yeah. Because like the 30-year-olds, the 25 to 30-year-olds are going to be 30 to 35-year-olds. And you know what happens if you're not making money off of a dream by 30, your dream dies. Yep. Pretty much.
Absolutely.
And so that generation that does buy beats, which is like, it's in their blood to pay for a producer because they respect them so much.
Right.
That mindset of a 15 to 20-year-old isn't the same.
So let me ask you this. That being said, as the shift happens, you're always somebody that's thinking, 10, 20 years ahead of time. That's something that I've always known. Even before we've had these conversations, you've always been that. That's just your consistency. You're always thinking, like, we've had conversations that, I'm speaking to the audience right now, that I sit up here and first see, this is what Epik could do to you. You get in a conversation, he'll get the wheel rolling with the hamster inside your brain, right? Get the wheel rolling, and then he'll bring in some other concept that has to do with AI that doesn't seem directly related, but it is related. And then the hamster just gets tired. The hamster gets tired and just chills for a second, like, yo, okay, I don't need you to be like unlocking those types of thoughts in my brain right now. But that's just the way this man thinks. That's why I'm glad to have him on here. It's a brilliant mind. But that being said, let me ask you this. What do you feel is sort of the road for somebody who is in that 25-30 range and say they are making some money right now? How do they now serve that younger e-commerce, knowing that we're in the generation of Netflix? I mean, and I'm asking this, and why I'm asking this, because you did something recently that, it's up to you whether you want to speak on it, but you've done something recently. I thought that was remarkable, that really does usher in this next generation of what it's going to look like. I think it'll cause for great conversation as much as you're willing to divulge. But how do you feel like our generation, I guess specifically, how do we service this new consumer?
Like I said, man, you just have to fall into the format. And I think the problem with any generation, like just people in general, is that they're not willing to step away from whatever the norm is and try new things and fail at new concepts, because if it fails, then they're demoralized. And I think that, and I'm not scared to talk about what I'm doing, because you can go and see. I took all of my beats, I put them in one package, and I sold them for one price. And then I added upsells and services on top of that entices the customer to purchase. Because in e-commerce, the one thing that you want to do, you want the person you're selling to, you want them to feel like when they buy something, because when you buy anything, you feel pain. Literally, like somebody punching you in the face.
Right.
Is the same feeling as spending anywhere from $1 to any amount above that. So what you want to do is you want to give them a Band-Aid afterward. It has to be a payoff after they purchase. So any type of way that you can create that's when you're going to sell, because it's a no-brainer to them. It's like, okay, I can buy this. It hurts a little bit, but in the long run, I don't feel it. It's different that if somebody buys a beat from you, then they pay for the studio time, they pay for the mixing, they pay for the mastering, they pay for the promotion, and then to upload it on the TuneCore, which costs way too damn much in the first place.
DistroKid.
By the end, right, exactly. Or STEM, whether one.
Yeah, like, I'm gonna make DistroKid the unofficial sponsor of this episode, only because they are definitely an affiliate link that that pays very, very handsomely. So shout out to DistroKid, the sponsor of this novel. Man, go ahead.
So I forgot where I was at.
Oh, my bad. No, you were basically talking about the way that you're servicing them, and you're basically applying a Band-Aid over it by giving them other services. So
that will pay off in the long run.
Yeah.
So that they feel like, when somebody buys a beat from somebody, there's no payoff in it, because they've paid so much money, they felt so much pain. By the end of it, it not only does it make them feel like what they're doing for them isn't worth it, it makes the purchase experience not worth it, which creates a non-return customer. Which we know that, at least for me, 50%, 55.5% of all my customers are returning customers. So that means that without the returning customer, I lose 50% of my business. That means that I'm fucked.
Yeah. Unless you got some reason aside from just the beats. And it's funny because this is something that I realized as well. I think pretty early in my career, on this side of doing business was that I can't rely on just this. To me, this, when I first got it, there's that initial feeling, there's an initial freedom, and it's like no feeling in the world that feels greater than knowing that you are making a legitimate living, a living that maybe even, our parents have never experienced off of making music. It's beautiful, but the honeymoon will soon end. And if you're not prepared when the honeymoon ends, you'll find out that you cannot just rely on that one source of income for longevity. And it hit me in the chest, as the seller, it hit me in the chest when I found out sort of the pros and cons of trying to sell beats during November, December, October, some of these really thin months for a lot of people in this business. And it was like, well, damn, what else do I have to offer my customers? What other reason would they need to come to me except for beats? And that thought alone put so much anxiety in me that I had to do something with that. And for me, the first transition or natural transition was, all right, let me jump on YouTube. There's a lot of thoughts that I have being in this, a lot of thoughts I have from being in the industry. Let me get on YouTube. And it wasn't even necessarily to make an income, but I needed to, expand my brand out. And then the next one for me was one-on-one consultations, because it was like these artists, it's funny because we had a conversation in which it inspired me to start talking to some of my customers again and seeing just how much money they were spending. Right. Yeah. And the consultations were really there so that I can help them spend that money more wisely, put that money in places that, stop buying likes and follows and spending all this money to look like you're something, and actually start putting it towards something that's going to make you something, actually see some progress with your streaming. Well, I've been putting up a bunch of Facebook ads. Okay, what have you been promoting? This album cover for an artist that nobody knows? That's not going to do it. Like, you got to find your art of finesse when it comes to selling. And it's funny because these artists and even producers too, because I see it all the time with these beat visualizers, we are so creative naturally. We have the most creativity. People are in awe when they see behind the beat videos and what we do. But we get to business and it's almost like Ricky Bobby when he talked on TV for the first time. He was like, I don't know what to do with my hands. Like, we get so lost, bro. A lot of producers and rappers, they get so lost when it comes to this, as if you're not supposed to tap into that same creative energy to present your product. But you brought up a good point from one of the conversations we had. And like I said, it made me want to look into my own customers. But I found that my customers were spending about an average of $1,500 before they actually even got the product to the public. So we're talking about studio time. We're talking about graphic design for the album cover. We're talking about, maybe even some pay to play shows for, to premiere some of the songs. And then they get to the actual release of it and they either lose momentum. Like I said in the article, they lose momentum, or they just start throwing their money in really dumb places left and right. Yeah. What have you found to be the average? Because the average that you had is a lot higher than mine.
Well, when it comes to, one, I feel like people shouldn't be releasing albums, especially on like an artist that isn't like known.
Sure.
I think the Rust format is the best format.
That is such an unpopular thing to say, but you're right.
I mean, people can say what they want about him. He changed things,
But like, it's brilliant what he did. Yeah.
Like, I think that he has, and this may, people are going to argue with me about this, but I think that when we look back, this may be extreme, but as far as for artists and culture, that's the one thing that you have to be able to push to make a difference these days, because he changed the way culturally that people like. I would say Drake did it first, then he pushed the envelope even further ahead with the release of music every single week.
Sure.
But for me, what I noticed, I just did some numbers, and if I was to put out an album today in the way that normal artists would, so if by buying beats online on a base price, so it's about $4,000 total by the end. So from beginning to end, buying beats, mixing, mastering, or recording, mixing, mastering, uploading, distributing, and promotion. So I don't know if you included actual like let's say if they paid for a PR or 3 months of PR.
Yeah, I didn't include that because most of them are hitting me up asking me about, what PRs that I know. It's funny
Right.
because I didn't even necessarily equate my highest denominator customer when it comes to buying beats. I just got the base level. Somebody who
Yeah.
maybe came and bought a bunch of basic leases. That's the
Yep.
one that I pretty much got. But damn, speak up. Definitely speak for the ones that are buying exclusives.
Well, what I
On
was
top
what I
of
was
that,
thinking on, like, even mine was just based off of unlimited leases.
unlimited. Okay, which is
So
that
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 was at
probably
like
makes
a
a lot of
price.
sense.
Like what I do in this, I'm not afraid to tell people this is just a normal sale. This is if you go buy anything anywhere, if somebody opts into your list, give them a percentage off, any percentage, it doesn't matter, because they feel like they have something that other people don't have. So
Mm,
I charge $150 for my unlimited leases, but if you opt into my email list, you get 50% off automatically. So now what this does is that when people opt in, this gives you a customer base of for sure 100,000% paying customers. These people are opting in to buy because the only reason why they
hmm
opted in is to get the 50% off
and to buy in the future, which I mean
in the
that's even
future.
that's
Right.
even more important. 'Cause, bro, it amazes me, and I'm glad to have these conversations with you because they keep me on my toes. But it amazes me how many consultations I have with producers that they say I only got 4 sales in the last 2 months, and I'm like, okay, let's talk about those sales. I come from the mindset of if you have success, no matter what that success is, first of all, stop comparing it to other people. Like you're not gonna come out the gate selling like an Epik. There's no way in hell that's going
No.
to happen. That's not what you should be shooting for. What you should be shooting for is where's my audience? What is the niche that I'm fulfilling? How can I serve them and then overserve and then over deliver on my value? You need to be focused on them. And I would ask them questions, very basic questions like, well, have you emailed them to thank them for their purchase? The 4 people? Oh, nah, I haven't done that. Have you jumped on the phone with at least one or two of them to see why they bought from you? Ah, nah. And these are like very base level practices of customer service in any other field, any other business. But when it
Right.
comes to I don't know what it is about production or just the culture of hip hop, why people feel like, we get to lower the standard. And I think a lot of producers probably would say, well, look at the quality of customers we're getting. Look at the rap. That doesn't matter. Your business is your business. It's not their business. It's your business. And how you present it is everything. So I can't imagine those producers out there who are not even doing that. Of course, you're only going to get 4 sales every 2 months. You're not even taking care of the 4. What makes you deserve the 8 or then the 18 or the 86? I always use the example also too of J. Cole. J. Cole at one time, I don't know if you probably seen this tweet before, bro, where he was like, I know I only got 1,000 or it's like 900 something followers on Twitter right now, but I'm greatly appreciative of them, man. Y'all are everything. Seeing
Mhm.
that amount of gratitude so early in his career before he became the J. Cole we know, this is just J. Cole who's just touring the college circuit and trying to get his name out there. To experience that level of gratitude so early, it shows you the difference between the people that make it and the people that don't make it.
Well,
So,
to that same fact. I mean, the man was signed to a label and all of that, and still did the Dollar and a Dream tour,
man, yeah,
where cause like his fan base can pay $1, and people that were skeptical or wouldn't normally even go watch anybody's show, they're like, it's $1, okay, cool, I'm gonna go check him out. Now he creates an experience which a lot of people don't do. You don't. There's a lot of different factors that create something that is consistent. And like for you, I can just look at you, and when, let's say there's a customer, let's say for every person that lands on your page, there's a 1% chance that, or there's 1% of them that will purchase. And those 1%, let's say it takes 90 days. In
right.
between that first day and that 90th day, what you do for those people and the experience that you create for them is what creates the sale. Your music is not an experience.
No. And I think that's bro, it is such a bar for you to say that because that is where the biggest obstacle I think mentally a lot of producers, like you said, a 25 to about 35 range, they have been used to experiencing music in a way that yes, the music was just the experience. You didn't need a music video to enjoy a Nas album. You didn't need a music video to enjoy a Wu-Tang album. That golden age appreciation generation. Not even really the golden age that was of age to appreciate it to a degree where it was like when Tupac passed away, I was still in middle school. I still appreciated it, but I'm the appreciation generation. I wasn't actively like a 20 year old male who identified it on a cultural level. But these folks, you got to think about it. That culture back then was pay $5.99 for a single on a CD. You're going to buy this big ass bulky compact disc with one song, maybe an acapella, maybe an instrumental. You're going to buy that for just $5.99 for that CD. Let's not even talk about cassette tape. Bro. Magazine like Source Magazine. He's talking about XXL for $5.99, $6.99 just to look at pages literally the magazines back then were what the internet experience is today. When you're looking at your phone and you're swiping, it's like you're not swiping, you're just turning a page. That's what magazines were, and that's why they're so obsolete now. But that generation is used to enjoying music for enjoying music's sake. This next generation is a lot more judgmental, a lot more critiquing of the art and all the things that go into it. They don't want to know. They don't want to just know about if Drake's album is going to be better than the last one. They're going to want to know if it's going to be better than the last one. Is he going to talk about his son? Is he going to talk about the experience? What is he going through? They want to know all these different things because everything around them in society tells them that. From Snapchat to Instagram to Twitter to Facebook, we want multiple experiences of the same person in order to be satisfied. You cannot believe that your music is the only thing that's going to satisfy them.
Yeah, it's definitely not. And I think too, the reason being is that you don't get the gratification and the payoff of having that bulky CD. I remember first album that I bought, two albums that I bought. It was Stillmatic and The Blueprint. And that era, that and I went out in the rain. I went to Best Buy. I spent $40.
Hell yeah.
On both the albums, but I got to go home. I opened up the book. I read the credits. It was an experience. It's the same. Even if it was just the music, but the experience, because I remember that. Now, the experience, like you said, has to have antics and like Tekashi 6ix9ine behind it.
Yeah.
In order for you to remember it, like the reason people are going to remember that guy because of his antics. And then tie the music to that in the future. That's the new experience.
The music almost becomes a soundtrack to the antics.
But it's always been like that though, too.
Right.
Like if you really remember just the format, it may not be the exact copy, but the format is the same. It's just same shit, different toilet.
Sure.
And so like, but the thing is that we can't complain about that. We can't feel some type of way about that. Our generation,
right?
The new generation, they appreciate it because that's all they know. Our generation, we have to adapt because you adapted. The reason why you do a lot of your content, you're trying to help, but you're also trying to create an experience, something that makes somebody think about you. Like if you help somebody today and then in 6 months they need to buy a beat, they're gonna buy the beat from you.
Even if the beat is not as good as the best that is out there. And I think that's you hit it on the head, is that I understood from the very beginning. I said, look, me as an artist, because what you got to understand is that Epik is also an artist and I'm also an artist. We have both put out projects. So we understand it from both points of views. Don't get it twisted like these are just producers who are kind of estimating what it is to be an artist. We have experienced this from both ends. And so when I saw what Drake was doing, I was already in amazement because I was like, to drop that amount of hits to me, that would be like multiple projects for me. Like those are songs I would have saved for my mentality. I would have saved for multiple projects. This is just a weekly drop for him, right? And we can get into the conversation about Ghostwriter. That has nothing to do with what I'm getting ready to say. I understood from that, and then when I saw the whole Russ campaign of doing almost songs every week, and then even like the Good Music Play where they were doing songs every week on every Friday, I believe it was Good Friday. I realized the culture was shifting in that you had to be prolific in whatever it is that you're doing. You just got to find out what you can be prolific at, and making beats is just not enough. You know, for certain people, like I give you like even like a superstar. Oh, you know, he definitely works his ass off. He's very prolific with the type of beats that he does. But even the beats is not enough. There has to be for him. There's a lifestyle that goes along with it, which introduces the Instagram, which he's very prolific in showing. You know, the Lamborghinis and all the different things that go into being who he is. You have to be prolific in something. And for me, the thing that one more thing. The thing that I had to be prolific in for me was these videos. And I knew that I could produce videos at a speed that I could not make beats and that I could not make songs, and at a quality that it just came naturally. I can just speak. I can talk. You guys are hearing it right now. I talk my damn ass off. I'm just talking. But I had to find, okay, this is the culture. Okay, what can I do, first of all, in great prolific manner, and then also be quality and still produce everything else that I do, and what can I do consistently? And a lot of folks, I think, are struggling with that. But you were getting ready to make a point. My bad.
No, I was just gonna agree and say, like, if you look across any business, that superstar O format is, you can really understand what he's doing. I see a lot of producers hating on him, and I see a lot of people talking shit. And I said this before, is like, you don't understand what this man is doing is pure marketing. Like, that Lamborghini made him more money than that Lamborghini costs.
People don't understand it's the same format these infomercials used to use, except for these are real deal. These are real deal, but it's the same thing we saw in the 90s when it was the guy walking on the beach and said, "I'm living the life of my dreams."
Or the World Star guys. You ever seen the World Star guys that try to sell like a get rich product, and they're on like yachts and all of that?
I've seen incarnations of that, but I've never seen that actual one. But that don't surprise me. Is that marketers have been selling that even to a certain degree. Like, you know, it's funny because Tony Robbins always talks about there was a point in time where, you know, that became like something people were telling him he had to do until he kind of shifted his direction of things. But there was an era where if you didn't have an infomercial, you weren't really a marketing mind. You weren't really about anything, right? And if you don't have a Lamborghini back then, when the economy was booming, how are you going to teach me how to be rich? And now, you know, people are not just listening to just the person that is rich. They're listening to the people that are making the most sense and actually have results that they want. And I think that's one thing that the younger generation that's important to understand. I got younger cousins, I got younger sisters, and one thing I realize is that they don't appreciate like, how can I put it, a smart ass point of view as much as we appreciate it. Like, we talked about people back in our generation when it was just like low key, like just clowning people. We just went in, just dogged jokes. This generation is more so focused on how to be more witty than the next person. To them, that beats a bully. They don't respect the bully anymore. They respect the person that is the most witty in an argument. Yeah. Right. And that's why you get these TV shows like on Disney's show where the kids are smarter than the adults. It's because that's what these kids are coming up under. They want to be the most intelligent in the room, or at least the most witty, even if they're not. That's why you get trolls on the internet. This is the energy that they're built off of. It's just up to us to figure out, how do I adjust to this? How do I be my natural self and do it on a consistent basis? I'm going to just say this. First thing is, if you're not comfortable with yourself, these kids are going to find the things you're uncomfortable about, and they're going to put them on Front Street.
Oh yeah, definitely.
No shame, bro. I got cousins.
I think it's always been like that, though. Like, it's always been like that, but it's just what I think now is that everybody has access to something that allows everybody to do it. So it seems like more people, but I think in school, there's always kids like that. There's always trolls. Everybody's a troll. Kids are fucking assholes, man. They just are. They just are. Like, now it's just magnified, and they get to hide behind an avatar,
Yeah.
But to shift it a little bit. Oh man, I had a point. I think the reason why the producer community is dying online is because it isn't that. It isn't a community anymore. And we talked about this before. The reason why SoundClick was huge is because it was a community, not just of producers,
Right.
but it derived from mp3.com. Then, all the artists from mp3.com, which was the biggest independent artist chart in the world back then, shut down. Then they gave all their customer base to SoundClick. So SoundClick had all the producers on it. So when they met in the middle, in the forums and all of that stuff, it invigorated this culture. And producers and artists were talking and helping each other. And you posted a beat, they told you what they thought. They told you how to get better. They helped you. Other producers would tell you how to properly do this and do that. And you have YouTube for that.
Right.
I'm not saying that nobody on YouTube is doing that.
Sure.
I'm just saying that
It needs to be more of that.
that needs to be the majority, and not just you're doing it or this guy's doing it. Like, everybody's doing it.
Right.
It wasn't just Curtis King telling me what to do or how to do. It was an abundance of all producers giving their input and helping me. I wouldn't be as good as I am at marketing or producing if I didn't get ideas and help from artists and producers on the SoundClick forums back then.
Right.
And it was super important. Like, that was the foundation of who I am today. And I think that these kids don't have that. These kids don't have that community anymore.
I was going to say, to play devil's advocate in it, because it's a brilliant point, is that culture has shifted to where, there's one end of it where sort of a younger generation kind of feels like they already know it all because they have access to it all. And in certain degrees, that is true, in that they have access to a lot of information. It's not all good information, but they have access to a lot. So it does make them feel like they have an advantage that perhaps me at 17 didn't have. So they're skeptical of everything. And I think that it's good to have a nature that questions, but then there's certain things that just don't need to be questioned. If it makes sense, it makes sense. And I think a lot of folks are, even to me, bro, like here I am sitting on about 1,076 videos just on my channel. I got about 400 videos sitting on BusyWorks channel. We're not talking about all the podcasts. I still get questioned on things I say all the time. It don't bother me because I know that what I'm speaking on, I can back up 110%. However, that nature of question, at some point in time, it just makes you a skeptical. It makes you skeptical and paranoid of everything around you, and you don't actually see progress because you think everybody's out to get you, or you think everything that is being presented to you is not the actual facts. And I think that the people who are winning right now are the ones who are silently, don't need a parade around it, they're silently building up their own communities, or they're starting up their open mics in their local neighborhood. And that sounds so old school to even say, but even the whole past the audio cord, auxiliary cord culture that's going around, where producers are getting together like in their local community, even like somebody's house, and they're just playing beats back and forth. It's getting back to that, but as Epik is saying, that needs to be a lot more deliberate. That culture needs to be there.
I think that needs to be the majority.
It needs to be you're saying it needs to be the main focus for this thing to survive.
For it to survive, because there's no it's not only about producers. Like, this is the problem, is that there's a segregation. And there's a segregation between artists and producers, and neither one respect each other. And the problem is that the artists only, and the artists only respect producers that they can look up to. And the producers only respect artists that they can look up to. But the artists that they don't know, they don't give a shit about. That's the difference. Like you said, that's dangerous. That creates the death. That's death right there. And back in the older days, it sounds funny to say that that wasn't what it was. Actually, the producers respected the artists a lot more because there was less of both as well. It was a scarcity at that time. There's so many now, and I don't even think, like, I saw Sango. He said something today. He's like, music seems like it's becoming more and more temporary, and I think our view of music is very temporary. I don't know
Mm.
about you, but when an album comes out, it doesn't live for me as long.
Well, I think that maybe that may have to do something with the individual. I mean, and maybe I'm just an oddity in all of this. When I fall in love with an album, I'll be that dude that falls behind on stuff. But I think that now music is being put out so prolific, in that you know folks used to actually be conscious, a lot more conscious about who was dropping.
Mhm.
And now people are like, "Oh, I'm dropping the same day as J. Cole. All right, whatever. Like, I got my fan base, you got your fan." And like people who don't really have a fan base are having that mentality. So that's the way that they put out music. I can't even understand it from a consumer standpoint, the average consumer, because I know their attention span is low. But for me, like, I'll take an album and I'm still bumping Yay. But I guess even me saying that, and that album's not really that old, is probably another testament to the time we're living in. But yeah, it does feel like at least the general conversation, the culture of it. And there's been a few people who kind of broke through that matrix. Like, I gotta say, Kendrick's "To Pimp a Butterfly," that probably had the most longevity, oddly enough. And I think it's
What
because
about
he
Damn though?
damn did, but it didn't have as much longevity because it wasn't so much a cultural piece for the bloggers. The
Even
blog
compared to like even Scorpion, or compared to like if you're reading this, it's too late.
Yeah, I think honestly, when you think about Scorpion, as much as there's great quality records on there, I think that it is going to fall off from the public conversation, because what was the focus before? What is he going to say back to Pusha T? Is he going to respond? Is he going to claim his son? He's done all that. Now it's like, if you don't love the music, which it seems like a lot of people, at least on my timeline, don't seem to be in love with the music. They seem to be more in love with the story of it. And there's already been answered and satisfied. They're going to move elsewhere, uh, because it just doesn't seem like there's songs on there like when it was Nothing Was the Same. There were so many songs on there that gave it longevity. It's almost like people forget Nelly. People forget the significance of a Nelly, because when Nelly put out that album, that I forget which one it was, it might have been Country Grammar. He
Mhm.
lived off of that album for a good 2 years, 2 to 3 years, and was dropping singles off of that. Like, he was dropping singles off of that started beefs, because these people didn't listen to the songs on his album 2 years after the album was already out, right?
Yeah.
He started the one with KRS-One, but that's the thing about it. He had so many records on there that were hits, and now that has been replaced with folks who are releasing these singles, the Tekashi 6 9s, where this generation's definition of a hit is a lot different. As long as he continues to be prolific with that and continues the trolling, they kind of work in harmony for him. But yeah, I don't know what the longevity of a Scorpion is, but I do think that one of the albums that sort of was the exception to the rule was "To Pimp a Butterfly," and I don't think it was because the music was the greatest he's ever created. I just think it's because of the culture that was built around it.
It was a soundtrack for something.
Absolutely. Oh
It
yeah,
was an
and
experience. It was the soundtrack for what was going on at that time, and he was the only person that did it in the level that he did it. Like everybody else was making songs and stuff, but he created the soundtrack for that moment.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, we're coming up on about an hour, and I like to make sure that these are still consumable. So I want to get to some hot takes and some hot points right now. And we,
All right.
the way I'm feeling on this conversation, bro, we got to continue this again. Even
Mhm.
if this is sort of my introduction, depending on your time, my reintroduction to my audience, because there are way too many points that we sort of touched on. One
Mhm.
of which being this thing that you're doing, like, we kind of glanced over it, with this making your catalog available for a certain price. But I
Mhm.
think that when people start to hear the numbers, you're gonna get those producers who are up in arms and gonna be pissed off at your ass for doing something like this. And I think it's good, because I think when people get pissed off, they got to start questioning their businesses, their businesses comfortability and its norms. But last points here, I want to make sure that we kind of reiterate what we've been talking about. What do you think is the most important thing for producers to start off with right now? What needs to change right now for the average music producer?
As far as selling beats, or just in general?
We can start off with selling beats, and then we can make it more general.
Okay. Selling beats. Uh,
Well, let's make it more general then. Let's keep it
no,
there.
no,
Yeah,
I got it.
you
I
got
got
it.
it.
Okay.
I think that what they need to focus on is maturing their entrepreneur mind. Like digest more content from outside of your business.
Mm,
Stay away from listening to producers. Fuck producers. Like, even from us, we're talking right now
right.
and we're saying this, but just for me alone, when I stepped away and I started downloading content, like you could still listen to us, but when you go and you listen to a Tony Robbins, a Gary Vee, there's this guy. He had this that changed everything for me. It was called High Traffic Academy, and this guy is a swindler, but his format was amazing, and the way things that he said and he taught allowed me to like, oh, okay, I can I can apply this to what I do,
Hmm.
because he gave me ideas that no other like you said, producers, they outside of being creative with music, they can't be creative with entrepreneurialism. So you want to go to a creative entrepreneur.
Yes. Yes.
And so step away from us. Like you listen to this podcast, take it and then go and listen to somebody else that is way far away from us, and then come back and apply all of it together.
Hmm.
But because it's going to allow you to think outside of the box and understand business from another perspective. I think that's really important.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. I got to echo those sentiments. Is that producers from here right now, don't try to change everything overnight. Get a greater appreciation for some of the things that maybe have stuck out to you. Maybe it was us talking about customer service. Maybe it was us talking about the prolific nature in which you got to release content, and that's something else too. Is that I want to reinforce it. There's a book that I caught that I read, Epik, called oh man, I can't remember the name of the book. It was by one of the executive producers of a marketing TV show, marketing. I don't call it a sitcom, but it's like one of these drama shows called Mad Men. And he made a marketing book. And one of the things he said was that nowadays, content creators, we need to replace the word content with message and brand with reputation. And as you
Mm.
start to sit there and formulate your ideas, your strategies, and what you're going to do next, start asking yourself, no, don't, or actually stop asking yourself, what content do I need to produce for my Instagram so I can sell my beats? Start asking, what message do I need to make clear to my audience on Instagram so that I sell more beats? And whatever that message is, whether it is that you have the most anthem sounding trap beats, you have the most sultry sounding R&B beats, and this is music for baby making music, this is a adult, whatever it is that you're pushing your brand forward, make sure that it's the proper message and it aligns. And also too, when it comes to your brand, stop looking at it as just your logo, just your name, just your tagline. Look at it as your reputation. These are all things that influence your reputation. So if that being said, that means that you can't go off, you can't go off on Twitter about how pissed off you are that LeBron's a Laker. If that's not part of your reputation. If your reputation is that of keeping things pretty PC and pretty clean, that's going to actually, not align itself with your reputation. But if that is, feel free, go in. I'm doing it. I'm having fun as a Laker fan talking about all this stuff going on. But I think that the first steps first is that you got to really look at yourself hard and long in the mirror and realize that all the things that you have learned up until now are not enough. I had the same conversation with myself. It's not enough. There are other things that are left unturned, rocks that are left unturned that you need to address. Your customers need more from you, or they're going to leave to the next person that makes beats that are worse than yours. Not even worse, but just a little bit not as good as yours. They'll go to that person because their customer service is kicking you in the ass. So, yeah, that's that. But man, I gotta say thank you for joining us, man. You're a busy man, and we certainly appreciate you sharing this information. Like I said, we got to continue this because I think that there's a lot of valuable things being spoken. And although we are just a producer's perspective, you and I both consume so much information outside of other. I can't tell you, I don't listen to a whole lot of producers because I can't deal with what I call the fist smacking answer where you ask me, yo, man, hey, bro, like, how did you get successful? And they smack their hand on their fist and they say, well, fam, you just got to get out here, you know what I'm saying? And like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to do your best. You know what I mean? Like, don't listen to nobody and just do you 100. And then that's the answer. And it's like, I got nothing from that. Yeah. There's nothing I can get from that. But I think that there's value in listening to this podcast over and also tapping into the same influences that we have. But thank you once again, brother. Is there anything else that you want to say before we close out?
I just have to reiterate, man, just the not listening to producers too much, man. Like because like my last point is we're still in competition. Whether people say, oh, we're not in competition, we're all still in competition with each other. And there's nothing wrong with finding somebody. Me and Curtis King, we work well together. We're in different spectrums as well.
Right.
We work from different angles, so it makes sense. But if I was in the same space that he was in, we could be cool, but it just doesn't make sense. Right. And so understanding that if you're looking at Cash Money AP all day, all you're doing is consuming his content. And you're not focusing on yours and how to get to a better place than he's at. And if you're comparing yourself to other producers and all you consume is producer content, everything that we say is usually contrary to what you personally believe, usually. Mm-hmm. If you're sitting here and you're looking at this guy, there's this guy in the music industry, he's going to shit on the whole online world, vice versa. If he's from the online world, he's going to shit on the industry. So if you're doing nothing but consuming content from them, you're going to get contrasting information that's going to confuse you and keep you from going after what you want. Absolutely. So pay attention. I would say go and your timeline should be full of rappers and understanding your consumer base. You should understand them like you understand your child. I think that's really important. That's my last.
That is a gem. That's an absolute gem. He said he said understand them like you understand your child. You got to surround yourself by the people who are definitely representing your bottom line. And I think that's a brilliant place to end this conversation. So thank you once again, Epik, for joining us on the Curtis King podcast. Thank you, music producers, rappers alike, all those people that are on here. I want to say thank you for listening. Definitely subscribe to us on all our channels, whether it be YouTube, Curtis King TV, Epik. What is your YouTube again?
Epik the Don. Just type in Epik the Don in the search and you're straight.
Epik the Don. Definitely subscribe to his channel. Definitely subscribe. And follow up with these conversations. And honestly, have these conversations with your peers. Have these conversations with your clients. Don't feel like at any given time you have to just take everything that we're saying as the gospel. But I will say that there is a lot of experience that goes behind this. It's not people just talking out their ass. So thank you for tuning in. Once again, this is the Curtis King podcast. I am Curtis King, CurtisKingBeats.com. Peace.